Hello everyone, this is Kevin Renath of Beer Nuts Development. We're going to continue our look at the 35-36 scenario for Lion of Judah. If you saw the previous scenario, or the previous video, you saw we got up to turn 2, so we're looking at the start of turn 3 after reinforcements. The event was actually a no event chit, so it's returned to the chit draw pool, and play continues to the first Italian turn. I'm sorry, the first player turn, which is the Italian turn. In this case, the Italians decide to start. They actually started a paved road under the CAE HQ, and they're going to try to continue it into the mountain hex. This basically allows easier tracing of supply and movement. So in the south, not much has been brought in, just a couple resource points. And most of the reinforcements have gone to the north. I'm not going to walk through the turns as much as in the earlier video. This is just primarily going to focus on the combats and how the fronts sort of move through each turn. So in this case, we have, looks like 3 attacks by the Italians. They attacked and took the one mountain hex, or they attacked the mountain hex with Ras Sam, and they killed 2 of the units, but did not kill the Ras. They attacked the Amba again with Ras Casa and got a 1/2 result, so they took a step loss there, but they did kill 2 of the Ras Casa's units that were in the Amba at the time. And then they attacked a hex of the Showa units and got a 1/1 result. So in the 3 attacks, they lost a total of 2 Italian steps. Ras Imru decides to attack again. They got another good activation roll. Not a full tactical surprise roll, but a full activation. However, they only got a 1/0 result. So they ended up inflicting 1 loss on themselves and did not inflict a step loss on the Italian defenders. That's shown by the red arrow. And then this is after the Ethiopian players have moved, so you can see they pulled Ras Casa out of the Amba and instead put the Showa units in and sort of have moved Ras Sam back some to sort of hopefully buy a little time, hopefully save Ras Sam from getting killed. In the south, there was only 1 attack, and it forced the Ethiopians from that hex. That was a net 4-1, even though there was a big 3/6 tribal unit there, but the Italians rolled well, and they killed the units without taking any step losses. And then the Ethiopians in their portion of the turn fell back to the rough terrain and the river line. So start turn 4, we draw the event that the Italian player really does not like too much. It's the Mussolini Pressures event. And what this does, it means that the Italian player has to make a certain number of attacks or they'll lose victory points. And so it was okay for them because turn 4 happens to be the turn when they get the largest number of reinforcements. They get 3 guaranteed, and they can bring in up to 3 more, not counting the truck. They also, as you can see, start getting 9 resource points per turn. It basically gives them a lot of offensive power starting from turn 4. So they move up their reinforcements and conduct 4 attacks. And you can see they attack Ras Sam 4-1, they roll a 6. And even though they get a 0-3 plus R result, they decide not to attack Ras Casa because there's 4 units in that hex, and the Italian player just doesn't know exactly the strength and doesn't want to risk additional step losses. But they do succeed in killing the Ras Sam. And when they attack the Showa unit in north of Debre Tabor, they do a 1/1 result. And they attack the Amba again, but actually roll poorly. All they do is inflict a 0-1 result, even though they have net 5-1. And on the Showa stack, it turned out to be one of the very best Ethiopian units, a 4/6. It is still a net 4-1 though, or sorry, net 7-1. And when they roll a 6, actually I got this a little mixed up. So the first attack did not include the 4-6 unit. It ended up being a 7-1, and they got the 0-4 result. The follow-up attack, it was on a big unit and ended up only being a 4-1. And when they rolled a 1 on it, they ended up taking a step loss. So they ended up taking quite a few step losses this turn. They did lose some colonial troops. So there's only so many colonials that the Italian player has. So they definitely use them to take step losses early, but eventually they will run out of them. And so this is the result after the Ethiopians move in the north. You can see they're not giving up the Lambas. They want to sort of hold them as long as they could. And the Italians are essentially at the full extent of their supply range. So you see the 1CA headquartered near the desert. He cannot move further south because he is at most 3 hexes from the trail without going adjacent to an Amba. Remember, you can't trade supply past an Amba even if you own the hex. So he's as far south as he can get. So that's really the extent of the Italian advance, at least along the desert front. It looks like they could probably go a little bit further in the Gojam region, and so the Ethiopian player does have to sort of be careful about that. This is also the turn where there's a chance for the Ethiopian king to begin activating. And 3 or higher, he activates, and he did. And that's why you see that his units have started to move up to assist in defending in the north. In the south, not much has happened. There's only 1 attack by the Italians, and it was a 6-1, but they rolled a 1, killing only 1 of the units. So the Ethiopian player held that hex and then reinforced it during their portion of the turn. So turn 5. Add more events. Some of these are rebellions and so on. That actually is one of the events that's drawn. Now, what this event would do is, if the Italians control at least one of the Ambas, then one of the tribes in Ethiopia would actually rise up, represented by the Italian player getting more of the Italian colonial irregulars. But unfortunately, the Ethiopian player still holds both Ambas, so the event is a no effect, or no event. In the south, again, as most turns, reinforcements have gone to the north, and the Italian player is content to just make slow progress, sort of taking the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. Now, one thing that they do is they use an airplane to provide air supply for up to 2 steps of units. In this case, it's the Eritrean cavalry and then a colonial irregular. And that allows them to move into hexes where they normally would not be allowed due to supply. And so they swing through 2 victory point hexes, Dirdawa and Harar. This is something the Ethiopian player didn't see coming, and it will be fine for 1 turn, but the air supply only lasts till the end of the turn. So if the Italian player wants to keep them in supply in subsequent turns, he will need to be able to have an air base within 3 hexes of them to fly an air unit in to provide supply. And this may not happen given the location of where they ended up. So, end of the Italian move in turn 5. There are many attacks this time. So let's just start left to right. He attacked Ras Casa and the 3 units there for a net 2-1 and rolled a 4, getting a 1-1 result, but had an Italian colonial irregular, so did not lose an Italian step. And the hex next to him, he ended up killing both show units with no losses. He attacked the Amba, and this was actually a very critical attack because there's only a couple more turns of this scenario. And this was a 7-1 attack that he got on the Amba. and he rolled a 4, which gave him 0 free. So, let me back it up a little bit. So, in this turn 4, the Ethiopian player only had 2 units in the Amba, and the Italian player was able to get a 5-1. That's a very good chance of killing 2 units, but they rolled a 2, which gave them a 0-1 result. So the Amba still held, even though it was only held by 2 units. So if you notice in turn 5, the Italian player decided he wasn't going to take that risk, and he committed everything. And so it ended up being a 7-1, where the minimum result is a 0-2. And so he was guaranteed to take the hex. However, to get to 7-1, he did have to commit an air unit. And when he did, he rolled a 6, losing it for a turn. So it'll be lost for turn 6 and come back on turn 7, which is the last turn of the scenario. But he did succeed in taking the Amba. And then in the south, he does get a 4-1 on the 4-6 Italian unit, killing it. 4-6 Showa unit, killing it. But realized afterwards that the hex is going to be out of supply. And in this game, advance is mandatory, so we must advance units out of supply. You can see that stack sitting there currently being out of supply. So, what is the end of the situation? So this is after Ethiopians have moved for their portion turn 5. Ras Imru and 4 units are currently holding the last Amba. Again, there's only 2 turns for the Italian player to take the hex. So it's not a guarantee he's going to be able to take it, and a lot's going to come down to the next couple rolls. Note that Ras Imru also still has his resource point. So that first attack, he can generate a -3 odds shift. So the Italian player has his work cut out for him. In the south in turn 5, there actually was quite a few attacks going on. The Italian player decided to try to break the line, so to speak, against the Nasabu unit up in the north. They rolled well and would have done a recon attack, but unfortunately had done the attack orders south to north, so they had already killed the yellow B-Marid unit prior to rolling the recon attack, and the stack contained the Nasabu leader, who was too big for the Italian player to try to attack with just a single stack. In the south, the Ras Destra units were attacked with a 1-1 result. The Italian players had a colonial regular, however, so no step loss. And if they did the order wrong, if they had done the 7-1 first, then perhaps the B-Marid units would have had a higher odds instead of just a 3-1. So the Italian player has taken some hexes, so the Ethiopian player falls back. Again, trying to maintain a solid line. One thing that's sort of north of this, the big graphic, is the Ethiopians try to retake Harar from the Italians that moved via the air supply. They end up getting a 2-1. They get +1 for a concentric. That's where you attack either from both sides or from at least three hexes with one space in between the hexes. But unfortunately, only rolled a 2, which is not good enough to kill any Italian units, and instead they just end up taking a step loss for their trouble. Turn 6, the units in Harar are out of supply. The Italian player does not have an air base within range, but they decide to use air supply on the other side of the front now, so that the FR unit can run and get to Debre Marcos. It will have to force march, but it can force march along the path, and so hopefully it will not suffer any step losses. In the south, only resource points come down there, and they one thing I didn't mention earlier was the event, which was wireless intercepts, which basically allows the Italian player to use an air unit to generate 2 column shifts instead of just 1. So they're going to use it up north on that key Amba hex. And so these are the attacks they conduct, basically 4 attacks. They attack the Amba, and they end up only with a net 4-1. Even with the 2 shifts for the air and shift for the headquarters. But they roll a 6, getting a 0-3 plus R result. Plus R is ignored because the hex was not cleared of units. But that leaves only 2 Ethiopian units in the last Amba hex. Ras Casa is attacked. He has 2 units with him, and only 2 step losses are inflicted on him. So he manages to escape being killed. And then there's an attack on the 2 units as indicated, 5-1, but for a roll only kills 1 of the units. And then finally the Nasabu leader with 2 units is attacked, and the net roll is actually a 3, not 43, and it kills 2 units, just missing killing the leader. And so the Italian player had the potential to get quite a few extra VPs this turn if they had killed a couple of those leaders. Now they do get a VP for taking Depa Marcos, where they use the air supplied unit. Okay, so this is how the Ethiopians fall back. They basically abandon Ras Imru to his fate, and they fall back to make sure that the Italians can't make a run at Addis Ababa, which is plus 8 victory points. So they really don't want to give that up. That would definitely seal their fate. They also don't try to retake Harar anymore, because now the Italian player has actually linked Harar with the southern front, so it is back in supply through the south. In the south, the Italian player really only makes 1 attack. Again, just sort of picking what the Ethiopian player is giving him. And even though it's a 7-1 and they roll poorly, there's only 1 unit defending, and they're able to take the hex. And so again, I mentioned in the southern front, the only real emphasis for the Italian players is if they can kill a leader or potentially break through and get the capital. And if not that, then at least they're forcing the Ethiopian player to keep units down here to keep them honest. Okay, and this is after the Ethiopian move in the south. Again, much like the north, they just fall back to sort of keep a solid line, and they realize the writing's on the wall. Okay, start of turn 7. The event is coordination, which essentially allows an Ethiopian leader to activate without rolling. They will probably save that for the Showa tribe, or maybe one of the tribes in the south. Those are the two tribes that have the most units left. So I'm going to look at the south first this time. So really the Italian player doesn't see much potential there. In the north, however, they do have many attacks that they're going for. Going to the Amba, they want to get as high odds as possible to hopefully guarantee killing the 2 units. I'm going to look at the other attacks first on this slide. So against Ras Casa, he's only got 2 units max, so if they're able to kill 2 units, they're going to kill another leader and get another victory point. Unfortunately, they roll a 3 on the 3-1 and only kill 1 unit, and in addition, they get a step loss for their trouble. They consider attacking the Showa leader, but after seeing their other rolls, they decide that it's just not worth it. So then the other attacks they have is on the only 2-step unit the Ethiopian player has, which is a King's Guard unit. And they get a 4-1, and they roll 1, getting a 1-1 result. So not only do they not kill the unit, they take a step loss for the trouble, and then to add insult to injury, they roll a 6 on the air unit, which is going to be another victory point lost, because it's the last turn of the scenario. And then finally, the last attack, they're trying to retake Diradal, or take it because it is a victory hex. It's a 3-1. They only have to kill 2 units, but they roll a 2. Not only do they kill no units, they actually take a step loss of their own. And so the question is, are they stealing defeat from victory? So, the big attack is actually the 2 units and the leader. So there are 3 units in the Amba hex, not just 2. And it does end up being 7-1. There's no concentric against an Amba. Ambas can't get a concentric against an Amba. And there's no other +1 DRMs that the Italian player can get. So there's still a 1/3 chance that the hex will hold, that they only inflict 2 step losses. However, the Italian player rolls a 4, getting a 0-3, and the Amba falls. In the south, for some reason, the Italian player decides to be aggressive. And he was going to attack the Natsuko leader, and I think there were 1 or 2 units. I think there was 1 unit in the hex. But after seeing some of the other rolls, they call that attack off. They do attack in the south on Ras Destra with 2 units. You get a 3-1, but again, they roll poorly. They roll a 2, so all that happens is they get a step loss. And then they decide to attack the 1 lone B-Marig unit. This was probably a foolish attack on their part, because after they killed the unit, which was easy to kill because they had a 7-1, they realized the hex actually is going to be out of supply, because it's more than 3 hexes from a path. Actually, why would it be out of supply? It does not look like it would be out of supply. I see actually they could trace supply to 1 hex, but so that was a mistake. We thought the hex was out of supply because they were trying to trace to the headquarters, but they actually didn't need to trace to the headquarters. They could trace right to that path. If you trace directly to a path, you can go 3 hexes. If you're going first to a headquarters, then a path, you can only go 2 hexes. In truth, it wouldn't have much effect. The Ethiopian player does counterattack that hex, but it was only held by a single 218 Italian armor unit, and it would still be 1 defense whether it was in supply or not. It's always a minimum of 1 defense. In both cases, the Ethiopian player, unlike the Italian player, rolls well, and so against Marcos, the out of supply FR unit, they end up getting a 4-1 where they roll a 0-2 result, and it only has 2 step losses for that unit. So they kill the unit and retake Marcos, which is a victory city. And then against the Italian armor, they get a 0-1 result, and again, they inflict more step losses on the Italian player. It's not a victory point hex, but it is an extra step loss. So that's the end of the situation in the north. Still, Dirdawa is held by the Ethiopians. And then in the south, you can see the line down there. Now we have to determine victory conditions. So the scenario victory conditions are listed here, and then also the victory levels. The Italians are looking at trying to get at least 12 victory points. So let's just go through. I went through this quickly, but they don't get anything for taking Addis Ababa because they did not. They get 2 for taking Harar and Desi. They get 6 and 6 for each Amba for +12. They've killed 3 Ethiopian leaders. However, they've lost 11 Italian steps. So that's -5 victory points. And then there's that last -1 victory point for the air unit that was removed on the last turn. Now this sort of, they overcommitted their air and broke it down. And if you add up the numbers, you have 12, 13, 14, 17 minus 6, which brings them to an Ethiopian victory by 1 point. So maybe if the Italians had been a little bit less aggressive in the last couple of turns, or if they'd gotten lucky on their air return roll, or maybe some of the Ethiopian attacks, they didn't roll as well as they did the counterattacks, and it very easily could have been a Italian victory. You can see from the map that certainly the Italians are, I guess, only 3 hexes away from the capital, and there's not much in terms of Ethiopians in front of them. Looks like mostly single hex units forming the line. So the Italians did well, but the Ethiopians managed to eke out a victory. And it just came down to the last turn, and failing to kill a couple of those leaders, which would have given them +1 VPs, and also failing to take Deir Dawa. That's right, they attacked that a couple of times to retake it, and if they had taken that, that also would have given them the 1 VP that they needed. And so we thought this was a pretty good after-action report on the scenarios or how it plays out. Of course, not all the scenarios that come down to the last turn or within 1 VP, but that sort of gives a feel for how the scenario will play out. The Italian player is definitely the aggressor and has the better units, but the Ethiopian player does have opportunities to attack if the Italian player overextends themselves and gets over-aggressive. So hopefully you've enjoyed what you've seen. If you had, by all means, go to GMT's site and put down for the P500. Let GMT know that you're interested in seeing this game published. Thank you, and that will be all for our video.